Hey guys. Love Tribe. Thank you so much for tuning in, for choosing this clip or video, I should say. Um, don't forget to like. I would really appreciate it. I'm very grateful for your likes. And subscribe to my channel. I'm going to give you a quick sound bite on something that can help you. And it is part of you know, uh, life coaching session. And that is, this idea of how your spiritual development is tied to your mental health. You know, one of the reasons why I think we need to start like implementing spiritual development into mental health practices is because it has been shown over the past few decades by not just scientists, but people in the neuroscience field specifically, how, worship and prayer definitely help and benefit the neurological patterns or neurological connections and transmissions of the brain that enables the pathways, the mental pathways that activate, your frontal lobe, where your logic and reasoning are located. So worship enables you to basically be more logical than fear based than worry based, which is a great thing because when you're in fear mentality or worry mentality, it's really hard to come up with a solution to a problem. And I often find individuals that commission services from a life coach, it's because they have issues dealing with fear, with worry, with anxiety, and when the weight of that becomes too heavy, it can lead them into depression, or it can lead them into sometimes not a depressive state, but into wanting to act on that those feelings, that feeling or those feelings, because just one of them can be very heavy on you, and they do happen. But I do think that spiritual development is directly linked to an individual's mental health, because in all of the therapy that even I have had in my life for things that I've been through, it wasn't until I developed myself spiritually that I found myself in a Zen like state of mind where I look at life and find in the details what brings me joy. The life that you're living right now that you think is messy and is complicated and has problems, it probably does, but you're not alone in that path. Everyone has complications and difficulties and obstacles and problems in their life. There isn't one person that doesn't have that. And if an individual doesn't have that, sometimes they create it for themselves. That's another thing that people don't realize. Like the wealthiest people that live what you consider, your dream life, they have problems also. It may not be financially based, but it could be problems that are emotional. It could be problems that are social. It could be problems that have to deal with relationships, relational issues, with family, not knowing if your friends are your friends or if they want you for, financial gain. Um, I had one time a client that hired me simply on the basis that they wanted someone to give them straight up assistance without BSing them. They couldn't get that from their friends because their friends were all yes men and yes women, because they knew that they could benefit from him financially. So many a times individuals don't necessarily hire life coaches for the let me take out my glasses. I think my camera's going a little crazy with the focus because of that. Many a times individuals don't. That's so weird. I'm talking about spiritual development and the camera's having like a little cuckoo moment. I'm just saying it does happen. I'm about to release an episode on anger, how to manage anger. And when I recorded that piece of material, I was going to delete it, but I'm going to post it. It's actually two-part. I had a lot of weird things happen in my home studio as I did that recording. So I'm going to have you witness that. I think it'll be cool for you guys to see it. Um, Especially since Halloween's coming about, you can kind of see my reaction. But back to what I was saying. Some people will hire a life coach because they just want someone that's not going to, BS them. You're going to give them the straight up facts of what you see they need to fix or change in their life. And listen, we think that sometimes change can be bad. We have this fear sometimes that change um, might cause us to actually not enjoy our life, or like we're not being ourselves, or change has a lot to do with being a different person. And this is the way I am. We live with that mentality that I am as I am. This is who I am. But that's a very immature way of thinking. That's a very immature way of being. Because even children in their earliest stages go through changes and they just flow into them. They don't simply walk around with a thought pattern of this is who I am and stay that way as a toddler mentally for an extended period of time. You know, as we become older and we acquire a lot of knowledge from our surroundings and we want to imitate what's around us, we kind of start to then have those concepts of, I am who I am. You have to accept me as I am. That's so immature and so ignorant. So you're basically telling yourself in the world that you can't change, you can't make alterations. I mean, even software needs to be updated regularly. Apps on our phone have to be consistently updated. Sometimes they're updated today and tomorrow they need another update, but yet we still want to walk around with a mental pattern of this is who I am, so you have to accept me. You have to love a person for who they are. Yeah, you love a person for who they are, you know. People can love you for who you are, but who you are shouldn't be a person that's stuck. That's what people don't understand. See, love is a choice. You love a person for who they are, and this is where then relationships get affected, whether it's friends, romantic, or family. You love people for who they are, but it doesn't mean that who you are is stuck and is static, you know, that it's just stuck in place. And when I say static, think of like the static that goes on a TV screen when you lose the image and that's static. That means that the image doesn't change. That's all you see, for an extended period of time. Um, we have static on a phone call. You can't hear a message. You can't hear a conversation. You can't hold a conversation with another person when they're static on the line, right? Because the message it's stuck. It's making the message stuck. Whatever last thing you heard that they said, that's where the conversation is at, because now with static you can't hear further. So static keeps you stuck. It might look like it's in motion because when you see static on a TV screen, it may look like something is moving, but we even have static online when we have like no connection. Then you have that little dinosaur game that comes and you could play it. That's an example of static. That game is never ending. It's on and on and on and on and on, static. It looks like there's movement, but there's not. When you're on the phone call, the same thing. It looks like you're still on the call, you're connected to that person's line, but you really can't further a conversation. So in terms of our development, when we say, you have to love a person for who they are, I think people have this misconception, and this is directly linked to spiritual development, because spiritual development in itself is about developing yourself. We're born innocent. We're born basically as a white piece of paper, a clean slate. That's what your spirit is like when you're born, which is a beautiful thing. Can you maintain that clean slate forever? No, it's impossible. There are things you're going to experience and go through in life that are going to make you feel tainted. That's just going to happen. Spiritual development, when you develop yourself spiritually, meaning that you learn about different religions, you make the choice to get yourself a little bit educated about that, or things in life happen to you that just guide you towards that. If you notice, don't don't make yourself foreign to that. Don't frown your face to that. Don't frown your attitude to that. Allow yourself to learn some information that might actually give you access to what you need in order to develop. Why do I say this? Because I think that we live in a life right now that gives us so much immediacy. We almost feel like we don't have to change. We can develop a routine that works for us, makes us feel like we're comfortable, and that's great. But being comfortable is being stuck in place. Being comfortable means that nothing is changing because you always know what's coming next. It's a routine. And routines are not bad, but they don't allow you to develop into something different. They don't allow you to actually experience something new. They actually make you afraid of something new. And if they don't make you afraid of it, they make you worry about it changing your comfort zone, and then you don't want to do it. Some people might be presented, actually I had this friend who was presented with the opportunity to change their life and, work in a different country and become financially established for themselves. And they kind of got that delivered to them on a silver platter in a way. They chose willingly to go back to their comfort zone because they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to hack it. Why? their concept or the explanation that I was given by that individual was that this is just the way that I am. It's who I am. It's the way that I am. And my doggy came to me. Hi, Lucky. Um, so in retrospect, you lose sometimes opportunities um, by not wanting to make alterations and changes in your life. Now, spiritual development allows you to start to understand that changes are not truly changes, they're growth. When we think of changing, sometimes we get worried and we get anxiety from it because we think of changing as we lose something and something else comes that we have no clue what it is. But it's not really that. Development is you still know the before, but now what's coming after, you're going to learn that and you're going to be open and flexible, not just physically, but mentally, to allow that to develop, to allow that to be introduced into your life. You're at least, my dog is having fun. You're at least going to attempt to do something different, you know? Just the act of doing that, the action, the physical action of wanting to have something different will already start to make you feel better. And many a times you have to put forth that first step in order for the second, third, and fourth to happen or to come, You're not going to know the pathway of that journey unless you just take the step that is in front of you at that at that particular moment in time that change is presenting itself. Um, Another reason why spiritual development is key to a better mental health is because spiritual development does allow you to know who you are in terms of, how you were created, the fact that you are not a mistake, the fact that there is no such thing as being born in the wrong anything. There's no such thing in being wronged when it comes to creation. Like, scientifically speaking, for every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction. In science, there's no such thing as mistakes or coincidences. There's reasons behind stuff. So why wouldn't there be the same idea when it comes to us, how we've been created? When it comes to creation and when it comes to spirituality, which is also a form of, I guess you want to think about it as an energy field, nothing is a mistake. I think people need to start analyzing it that way. They need to start combining science with, their spiritual understanding to realize that one supports the other. They're not different. They're not independent of each other. They actually show proof that they both exist. And that's what scientists have been starting to show more and more, Um, so let's go back to what can you do to actually allow or to, come into a better mental health standing. It is impossible to create a system or change or a step out of your comfort zone that's going to be the immediate answer to your problem. Knowing that is really great because then you understand that it takes time. Process reveals potential. So there is a process, and all you can do is just attempt and make that first step to do something different. I definitely invite you to, you know, um, analyze your spiritual development thus far. Without any guilt, without any judgment. Don't self-judge. Don't make yourself feel guilty if you haven't had it. Just analyze it. Just check on, what practices, spiritually speaking, have you had over the course of your life so far? How can you make, or what can you do that will make that particular echelon of your life a little bit different from now moving forward? Because that's another thing about spiritual development. If you have within your heart the desire to, you know, forgive others, forgive yourself, and just let go of the past, then a moving forward does allow you to be a new person. This doesn't mean that you become 100% absolved of everything you did wrong, but it does mean that the weight of what you did wrong is lifted off of you because now you understand why you did wrong and how, the fact that it was wrong, and in moving forward, that you will attempt to never do that again. And I say attempt because in every journey of each person's life, you don't know what's coming next. None of us know what's coming next. Not even fortune tellers or tarot card readers. They don't know what's coming next. They can give you estimations, they can get enlightenment from darker energy and give you answers to things, but it's not going to be the truth. Okay? It's just going to financially compromise you to keep going back to them and to depend on them so you can be manipulated. What I'm inviting you to do is something that's more of a self-reflection, individual activity. Not everybody is comfortable going to a therapist, which I understand. You know, um, there were times that I didn't like it, even though I was told that that's like the best application at the time for me. But then there were other times where people seeked me for that, and I got to the point at some with some sessions where I don't even charge, because sometimes you have to physically in action be an example of what you're trying to tell people, right? So I invite you to just analyze your spiritual development thus far, like with no guilt, with no judgment. If you can, write down what are some things that you were involved in, church related, whatever that church or religion has been or was for you. And understand this, that spiritual development is not about religion or religious education. It's about a relationship with, who created everything. It's about a relationship with what put you here. It's about an acknowledgement that that relationship is valuable to you. And if that's about relationship, then it is pretty much free of a space and time, you know, because what do relationships involve? They involve commitment. They involve dedication. They involve a natural flow of just, wanting to be present, not compromise. Relationships don't need compromise like people think. And that's another lesson for another day. But relationships require just a natural flow of presence. What does that mean? That you want to be present even in times and moments where, it's not your favorite or it's not your thing, because that's just what you want. So that's relationship. So what has your relationship been? What has your spirit relationship been with the source that has created you? In New Age, they like to talk about the universe a lot because that allows them to have a wide window of space as to what you can, substitute the universe concept with. But what they really did is they took a spiritual idea, a spiritual connected idea, and turned it into something that you can use now to manipulate people into getting further away from. And that is God. It's not the universe, it's really God. But since we're taking baby steps, we're just analyzing our spiritual development. And I'll be honest, I had a few years where I was very disconnected from that. I had a huge misunderstanding as to what and who created everything, even though I was raised Catholic. I had to self reflect on that. I had to develop that. I had to find that connection again. And I had to create that relationship again. So, yes, you can recreate relationships with, those you love that you've just kind of you've distanced yourself from. Because sometimes we distance ourselves from it because of horrible circumstances, which is understandable. Then please don't get close to that again. You can forgive and love from afar, but have boundaries with your heart. But when it comes to what is good and you've distanced yourself from that, you can rebuild it, just like small steps at a time. Don't focus so much on what caused the disconnection or the disconnect, because where there is love, there is understanding. Where there is love, there is understanding. That's another spiritual based idea, concept. Where there's love, there's understanding. And a lot of people will try to twist this into, well, there has to be love from the other side for there to be understanding towards me, right? And it's like, yeah, but also you have to have love, because where the love comes from you, and that means that you have understanding towards others. We cannot always expect others to apply, concepts that work only in the direction of us. We have to be the ones also applying it sometimes. So spiritual development, you know, is about connecting yourself to what has created you, placed you here, and understanding that you're not a mistake. Nothing is a mistake and nothing is a coincidence on this planet. That's number one. Number two, another component very important for spiritual development, um, to kind of just start putting into play, is start to tame your ego. Think of your ego as a lion inside of you. The lion wants to attack. The lion wants to be right. The lion wants to have the last roar. The lion which would be the last word. The lion wants to be on top. The lion wants to claw things to, like, kill them or hurt them. That's your ego. Put into play, after watching this video, mental acts of you taming a lion, mental images of you taming a lion. If you have to look them up, do that. It's the second thing, taming the lion, your ego. Why is that? Because when you relate to other people, many a times, one of the reasons why you have difficulty actually having a good relationship, interaction with them, or even like going from a connection to a relationship, is because your ego is destroying it. Your ego is destroying moments, and it's destroying your connection to what's good, because your ego wants to be right and better than everything else. And when you're claiming and in your mind thinking that you're better than what's around you, you're never humble enough to allow change to come into your life. So your ego is tricky. It makes you feel and think that you're the best, only to have you alone and depressed. See? So mental images of you taming your ego, the lion. That's the second thing. The third thing I'm going to invite you to do, so we're only going to stick to 3 things. So analyze your spiritual relationship with no guilt, no judgment, and try to reconnect with, what created you to be here. 2, taming the lion, the ego. And third, stay quiet in moments that things seem to insult you. Say it again. Stay quiet in moments that things appear or seem, or you hear them and they feel like you're being insulted. Stay quiet. Say nothing. Don't respond. Just don't respond. If it involves you staying, stark at the person, just staring at them, then do that. Why do I say that? Because in moments of feeling attacked, in moments that we want to be defensive, usually it's not us. Checking on my dog. It's not our spirit. It's our ego. It's our ego that is making us like diarrhea out of our mouth with what we have to say, with comebacks. I used to hate the fact that I'm horrible at comebacks. I only think of comebacks like after the fact. And there's a lot of people that can relate, But I think that that's now, actually, I look at it and I'm like, that's a blessing. Because not having comebacks enables me to not have anything to say at that moment. So not only do I stay quiet, but my silence becomes powerful, because the other person on the other end receives nothing from me. So what purpose do they have to keep going? And sometimes they do keep going, or sometimes they don't. And they think that they just, one-upped me. But the reality is I didn't take it personal. So that's the third thing. You're making the choice to stay quiet. Why? Because you're training yourself to not take things personally. If you can do these 3 things, if you can attempt to do these 3 things, just do one of them, just do one of them. I promise you, you're going to find yourself mentally better within a couple of days. And eventually, if you practice these enough times, it becomes your default behavior, becomes the way you are. And that's why it's so important to apply, spiritual concepts into your life, not so much to be manipulated by religion, because it's not about religion, it's about relationship. It's about relationship, about, with what put you here, what placed you here, to understand you're not a mistake. You're not, every wrong that happens to you will be turned around for something good. Because sometimes in order to be a hero, in order to be that full-fledged person that you would love to be in the future, you're going to have some battle scars, And scars are good because once they heal, it's very hard for that skin to be cut the same way. As a matter of fact, think of the blisters you've gotten on your feet sometimes from shoes, and when they heal back and you wear those same shoes, they don't blister you anymore. And a lot of people think, oh, it's because the shoes stretch out. That's like a 1% part of it, you know? The 99% part of it that that people are not focusing on or don't explain is the fact that your foot now has become stronger in that area for that shoe and it doesn't blister anymore because of the way the skin grew back. You grew back thicker skin. Scars are good. Injuries are good. They're not bad. And when I say injuries, I don't mean physical. I mean emotional. The emotional things we go through that we just like, why me? Why this? To get out of victim mentality, to get out of anxiety and worry, you have to reconnect spiritually with what created you here, what created you to be here. You have to tame your ego. You can't annihilate or delete ego because ego can be beneficial. And that's a clip for another day. That's a lesson for another day. But you have to tame it. You have to envision yourself literally taming, the king of the jungle, the lion. And then the other thing is stay quiet in times of being offended. Why? So that you can start understanding how to put into practice not taking things personal. That will be a really big help to you living and leading a less stressful life. Although stress is not 100% negative, but the feeling of it, how we define it, how we interpret it, it can make us have a very negative outlook on it. So in order to change interpretations of stress, which is a lesson for the future, today I just wanted to talk about these 3 things. In order to change our interpretations of what causes us to have mental health problems, it is important for us to start putting into practice certain modes of thinking and acting that will make that interpretation something that we allow into our life naturally. Because you can't have a new interpretation given to you and just be like, oh yeah, well, that's my new definition now. That's what I'm going to use now. It doesn't work like that. The mind is very complex. The mind is very, interconnected with feelings, emotions, pain, sensations. There's so many things, thoughts, memories, subconscious, consciousness. So all of this is there. Process is necessary for the potential to be revealed. In order to have a good potential outcome, and that's why it's called potential. It's not called an immediate result. It's potential. Why is it potential? It can only happen if you put into practice certain things that become you. If you read an hour a day, it's only 4% of your day. That's another thing that people, sometimes they feel an hour is too much. It's 4% of your day. And an hour doesn't mean you have to sit an hour exactly and read that full hour straight. A few minutes here and there, carry whichever book you've been given or whichever book, self-improvement book, or even if it's a novel, just read a short piece of it. Allow your mind to disconnect for a bit. It does help. And in those passages that you read, you might get a certain message that kind of helps you for that moment, or kind of just it adds the data that you need in order to get to the potential that you're looking for. The potential is to have a new interpretation for stress. The potential is to have a new interpretation for how we take things and how we deal with our relationships. The potential that we're looking for is how can we be unconditionally loving people, and to be unconditionally loving and to have an interpretation of stress that is easier and better to live with. Yeah, you need to put into practice certain thought patterns that get you there. Just like going to the gym is necessary and working out certain muscle groups is necessary in order to transform your body into a certain, design. Because all you got to do is go to a gym, look at people that are working out based on the machines that you regularly see them working out. Let's say you go for about a week, right? Or let's say for 2 to 3 weeks of going to the gym, you go like maybe twice each week, even if you just go twice. You'll notice people that are there those 2 times a week that you go. Notice what they're working out. You'll realize that those patterns or those behaviors they're having with their workout routine at that moment that you're observing them has a lot to do with what body part is becoming enhanced. Same goes for you. Once you start to work out certain muscle groups, what you want, what are you trying to improve on your body? That's what you're going to improve based on, what's your focus. The same thing when it comes to mind and mental patterns. Why didn't our ancestors deal with this? I believe mental health has always been a problem. It has always existed. I shouldn't say it's a problem. It's always existed, obviously, because we have a mind, we have a brain. Mental health, the mind is part of the mind. It's in the organ of the brain, the muscle that's in your head, the skull. Um, Now we just have so much data that is, globally shared because of technology, that we're able to have more understandings about mental health. Um, do I believe everyone needs therapy? No, I don't think everyone needs therapy. I think that technology has allowed for people to have access to what before, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they would have to go to a therapist all the time to resolve. Nowadays, if you have the desire to make changes and if you start setting forth certain actions, you can actually, you know, um, get a positive outcome from that. Of course, I still think that you should see a medical professional if you feel like you have a really hard time dealing with something that's extremely negative for you. Um, but if a medical professional is not possible because not everybody has insurance, right? So sometimes you can't afford that, then I would invite you to find a church leader of any church, you know, um, because a church leader, regardless of religion, they should have an understanding of unconditional love and non judgment. If that's not the feeling or the vibe they give you, then that's not the leader you should go to, and you could feel that. That's something that you feel on a personal level. I can't tell you who's going to be better at what because there's some people that have it and some people that don't. But also remember this, where if you're coming from a source or place of love, you should have understanding, right? So be understanding that you're still dealing with humans. Even church leaders are human beings. We don't know what their day is like, what their life is like, what that moment right before meeting you could be like. Um, so understand that the same way for you. I think when we start to apply certain things in our life to allow them to become patterns, um, and you start to see the positive outcomes of it, you're more inclined to want to keep doing it. So, in order to get to a point that has the potential that I know that you're looking for when it comes to mental health, self reflect on your spiritual relationship with creation, why you're here, who you are, accepting yourself as you were, as you have been created. It's a beautiful thing, to love yourself. It's very important to love yourself means accepting yourself. It's not about the world accepting you. That's another thing that new age mentality tries to tell people. New age ideology tries to push through and make it a political agenda. It's not about the world accepting and loving you. It's about you loving yourself. Stop pointing fingers and start looking at yourself. You living yourself as you are, not as you want everyone else to see you, as you are. So that's number one. Number two, taming the ego. You can't get rid of the ego, tame it. Find ways to tame it. What does that mean? Don't allow yourself to have the last word. You're not showing a vulnerable face or a weak face to other people. You are basically disciplining yourself. Discipline within yourself creates confidence. So this second item that I'm mentioning today is for the future clip that I want to do about confidence, how to have better confidence, right? Taming your ego is the second one. People would think the ego is needed for confidence. No, it's the opposite. Knowing how to tame it and using the ego to your advantage, and when it isn't useful, is confidence. And the third one, stay quiet in moments of feeling insulted. In moments of feeling attacked, stay quiet. Stay quiet. Because whoever is talking or speaking or interacting with you in an offensive way, according to your thoughts at that time, can't keep going with their mouth if you're quiet, if you're in silence and peaceful. You're making that choice. You're not giving them the last word, and you're also not saying that they're right. You're staying quiet because you're making the choice to stay in a mode of peace. Pretend that you muted them, okay? And in doing that, you start to put forth a mental pattern of it's okay to not take things personally until it becomes who you are. And then it's very easy for you to relate with other people, to interact positively and lovingly with others. Why? Because the offense that they did today, tomorrow when you have to approach them, you're not even going to remember. You're not even going to care. And they're going to be shocked that you don't remember or that you don't care or that you didn't care. Because then they're going to feel like they're insignificant. That's another thing people don't realize. You're feeling insulted. You feel like you have to attack at that moment. you are validating the other person. You are giving them extreme value, and they love that, and they'll keep attacking you more. So regardless of age, these three things I'm mentioning today work. So I really hope that you can apply them. Hope that you like them. Um, I'm excited. I did this little clip here for you. I hope you guys got to watch my last post with Michael Saltos, the ex gang leader of the Latin Kings. Yo, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Bluetooth your speaker so you can listen to it. I know I have some sound issues sometimes. This is a new podcast. I'm doing this, also while learning how to program, how to record, how to get sound. If you want to contribute, check my show more section. And contribution doesn't have to be with something monetary. Contribution could be messaging me tips about how to get this better. I would really appreciate it because um, it does take a lot of courage to create content and upload it for people to see. Because every creator does have a real life, does have a life that is professional, family oriented, or some family or friend, aspect to their life. So it takes a lot of confidence and a lot of security emotionally to actually put ourselves out there. So if you can contribute even with your insight in the comments, I appreciate it. I love it. I think that is great, and also gives opportunity for whoever is subscribing and part of this channel, part of the Love Tribe, to see what those comments are, to see the exchange is another example of how to approach things with love. That's the whole goal with a Love Tribe. If you approach things with love, basically you'll always have understanding. I know that it sounds hard to do if you're just starting on this journey of trying to better yourself. I get it, but it's not impossible. And eventually, when you realize the benefits that come from approaching life that way, you never want to return back to being the way you were before. Life becomes more joyful, your heart becomes lighter. You're excited about every day as if you just are born again, and you actually notice that the colors of the sky are not necessarily the colors other people have always said. You actually start to notice the different tonalities that are combined together to make those colors. You notice the details, and that's a beautiful thing. And in order to get there, I'm here for you. I've helped a lot of people in the course of 7 years. Um, they sought me for a while. So now I'm at a point where I'm seeking you. I'm seeking you to be a part of this group, be a part of the Love Tribe. Connect with me. Check the show more section. Love us, share us, like us, and subscribe to us. Subscribe and be part of the tribe.